Hello and welcome to Cooking Books with Heather. Today we're going to be making House Black Daal from the Dishoom cookbook. They say this is one of their signature dishes. We did not get to try this, but I've heard such good things about it that I thought we should go ahead and try it. This is only the second real dish that we've made and been able to try. We've done some preparatory things and all that, and something is aging. You'll see all that eventually, but this should be the second like fully completed dish that you'll see. This starts with whole black urad dal. I had some other stuff that was not black and was, I think it has like the coating taken off. I don't know. But I went and found this. Because I hadn't planned to make this, but then I read about it and everybody loves it. They also say it is their version of a dal makhani, which is the sort of butter sauce, the butter chicken sauce that we've already made, but doesn't use that sauce. It makes its own. So anyway, I've measured out the amount for this recipe. This bag should make about 3 full recipes. So if we really like it, I might make a double batch and then freeze it, because I think that should work out okay. That's what a lot of people say they do. So, and that'll make an easier dinner. Anyway, we need to basically wash this, rinse it off. And so what it says to do is to cover it with water. So I'm going to cover it with cool water. That looks good to me. And then it says to whisk it for 10 seconds. I'm just going to move it around with my fingers because that's fine. And I don't want to, my whisks I think are in the dishwasher. So there we go. I'm going to basically get rid of all of this water and cover it again and do that 3 or 4 times until the water is clear. So I'm going to use a sieve because I don't want to lose these down the sink, and I know I would. This is our 4th wash. It's not fully clear, but I'm going to call it good enough for this. So I'm going to strain it into my colander, my sieve, and put it into this large saucepan. We need to hold at least 4 quarts of water plus this. It's in liters, 4 quarts and liters, approximately the same. So this is an 8-quart pot. I don't have a 6. That would probably be enough, but an 8 should be fine. These little lentils like to stick. So now I'm going to fill this up probably a little more than halfway. It doesn't really matter, just as long as you have at least 4 liters of cold water in here. So that's what we're going to do. That is plenty. Now we're going to put this on the stove, bring it to a boil, and cook it steadily for 2 to 3 hours. So I think it's going to be above a simmer, but below a full, like, super boil, steadily, 2 to 3 hours. So when we've decided that that's done, we will come back and show you the rest of what we need to do, because that is not the end. They want this to become soft and the skins to sort of come away from the whole grain. So we'll show you what that looks like when we decide it's done and tell you how long that takes us. It'll probably be at least 3 hours by the time we get this to a boil and get there. So we'll see you then. I do have some preparatory stuff to do. My dal has been cooking for about 2.5, maybe a little bit longer. I think it was almost done at 2 hours, but we weren't ready to film. I'll show you that in just a minute, but I did turn the heat off and let it sit for 15 minutes as the recipe states. So I do have to make some spicy tomato-y paste, and this is starting with tomato puree. So I've already measured the tomato puree in here. Oh, I forgot one more ingredient. I hope it's just the same as our tomato puree and it's not generally thicker. I don't know. But we're starting with tomato puree. I just bought a can and I have like 3 more cups. I can only buy a pretty large can. So I transferred that into some containers and they're currently in the refrigerator. I will label them and put them in the freezer if I can't figure out something to do with them this week. To this tomato puree, I'm going to add the ginger and garlic paste that I have made. I'll link that up there. It's probably a short. It's really easy. It's some oil with ginger and garlic, and I'm storing mine in the freezer, but there are instructions for storing it in the refrigerator if you can use it in time. So I'm going to put that in here. There we go. And also to this, I'm going to add some salt, which I weighed. There's some of the garam masala that we've also made. There's probably a short for that linked up there. And this Degi Merch chili powder, which is the very bright red. So this is all going in here. And I've used the fine sea salt as requested. However, since it is by weight, you could weigh any type of salt and that would work, especially since it's a liquid. The size of the crystals doesn't really matter at that point. So now we're supposed to mix this into a paste. So we'll see if it becomes a paste. Probably paste-like. Not super thick, but yeah, definitely. There we go. So this is a lot of our flavoring components. We're going to add butter when we add this. This is unsalted butter that I've also weighed out. Yes, we add that with the paste. But I have to deal with my dal first. I did not, this is what it looks like. I'm sure you can see after cooking for 2.5 hours. They're seems very soft. And that is very important right now to get it soft. I did use this to sort of skim off some of the foam as it came up. Forgot to mention that. I cooked mine at sort of a little over medium for a while and then cut it down to medium, so it was above a simmer, but not a super fast boil. And I did have to add more hot water a couple times just to make sure it was covered. But now we are supposed to carefully pour off the cooking water and then pour on freshly boiled, I'm just gonna use hot from the tap, water to cover. So let me go see what I can do to carefully pour this off. I don't know how much it wants me to pour off, all of it. Do I need to sieve it? I'm gonna use the sieve just because I don't wanna accidentally pour it all down the drain because that would suck. I decided that's enough. I felt like we were losing some of the sort of cooked beans that had mixed with the water, and I didn't want to lose too much of that. So this is what it looks like before I add the water. So I'm gonna go add hot water from the tap. There we go. Can't really see anything. It's covered, I would say a little more than an inch, maybe an inch. If I need to add more water, I can. But we're gonna go bring this to a boil over medium-high heat. And then we're gonna add the butter and that paste. We're gonna cook it at medium-high heat for about 30 minutes. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it, stir it very frequently because you do not want it to burn or stick. And then we're gonna lower the heat and simmer it for another hour to an hour and a half, stirring very regularly. So I'm probably not gonna show you all of that because it's a little annoying. And it's very boring, just boiling on the stove. But we will show you what we do after about an hour and a half to 2 hours from now when everything's been cooked for almost as long as it needs to cook. Because after this, there's still yet another stack. This is just a little quick video to show you what it looks like after it's been cooking for 30 minutes. And now we're gonna leave it at about this, maybe a little bit lower, for another hour to an hour and a half, and then we'll see you back. All right, this has been cooking for about an hour. After that, half an hour, and it's thick and creamy. But now we're gonna add, I'm using heavy cream. It calls for double cream, which, you know, it's almost impossible to find here. Well, not at a regular grocery store here in the United States. So heavy cream it is. And it just needs to sit for about 15 more minutes on the stove. It's gonna, you know, simmer for about 15 more minutes, and then it will be all ready. And we're supposed to serve it with naan or chapati or other Indian bread, and that's it. So we'll show you what it looks like when it's all done and let you know what we think in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make the House Black Daal from the Dishoom cookbook. This is not something that I personally marked when I first went through this book, but I heard a lot about it. A lot of people said it was one of their favorite recipes in this book, so we decided we had to try it. I was gonna make the naan from the book to have with this. It does suggest to make the chapatis, which we prefer naan, or at least we generally order naan. I didn't have time to make it. We did have some in the freezer, so we used that. It was good. I think this is just not the best recipe for my family. Lentils in general, meat-free meals in general, are not something that we gravitate towards. It was good. I think it needed more salt, which was not expected since the other recipe that we have done, the ruby chicken, was seasoned exactly the way I like it. Had plenty of salt. I think cooking beans in a plain water for a while is necessary, helps them soften up, but I do think that salting them earlier helps them get salt inside them better. Whatever, it was not our favorite. However, it was really good. And if you like a lentil dish, if you're a vegetarian, for example, this is sort of the vegetarian version, kind of the chicken ruby that we made. It is basically a dal makhani, which uses, well, it doesn't use the makhani sauce that we made, but it is that type of sauce. Some cream, some tomato, although there was not very much tomato in it, which I thought was interesting. Like maybe it needed a little bit more of that for me. Whatever. Not exactly our favorite. Next time I will salt it a little bit more before the second simmer. Give it a little taste, give the sort of the sauce a little taste, but I don't want to over salt it because it does still reduce a bit. Anyway, whatever. Not our favorite. I will make it again and I will try it again. It's not a hard recipe, but it is a time-consuming recipe because you are cooking the dal from a dried state, which takes a while. So other than that, I think it's a lot easier than the chicken ruby recipe. So if you like lentils, you should give it a shot. And if you do, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this dish. And if you've enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back. And maybe I'll eventually make the naan.